spoken to the Finance Minister, Molusi Gigaba, but let's get some reaction now from both business and Labour on what they thought this medium-term budget statement reflected. Let's start with you, Sizwe Mbele, from Business Leadership South Africa. Ahead of this budget, business was quite firm about what it expected the Finance Minister to do. One of those things was to declare quite unambiguously that the Minister was against corruption, was against state capture, in order to increase his credibility. And I suppose you look for credibility so that investment can take place. Did you get that in the speech?
Yeah, thanks very much. I think from the point of business, we're saying perhaps the stage of coming up with good words, it's over. We wanted the Minister to come up clearly and state that we need to condemn and root out corruption, specifically because, as we know, that there has been some accusation and allegations that there are some parallel processes within the Finance Department, Treasury, whereby some of the competencies has actually been resourced. That's number one. But importantly, that the PIC, there's been some allegation whereby that there is some certain families that are hell-bent at raiding the 1.9 trillion. So good words, whereby it says we need to root out corruption, but we need formidable action that are tangible so that business can have confidence on the government itself. Yeah. And of course, the business has always said that you cannot keep on financing the bad habits. Whether you're raising taxes, whether there's an increase in economic activities, you've got to make sure that you remove the inefficiencies that you see in SOEs, so particularly in governance of SOEs. Do
you feel you could have done a bit more in that regard?
Absolutely, you could have done more. I just think the two things that you should have mentioned, that the whole question of a nuclear program is actually scrapped because we never reached that. Yep. You saw the numbers in terms of the global growth. They are quite impressive. The African growth is even more impressive. The Southern economic growth it's more impressive. But for South Africa, we're actually on the opposite side. So we needed more action on that one.
Matthew Parks from COSATU, let me bring you in. I mean, Labour has been watching this very, very closely as well. You have some staggering figures here that are quite shocking. Even the Minister himself said that we're not in a very, very good situation. Budget deficit increasing from 3.1% to 4.3%. That revenue shortfall is a staggering figure, 50.8 billion. And then, of course, growth, 0.7 forecast from 1.3%. I mean, from where you're standing, you want jobs and you want certainty for the workers. Those figures are not impressive to you.
Sure. No, look, first, we're deeply disappointed. This is a missed opportunity. We don't want to focus on the Minister of Finance because this is a government budget statement. But the nation's in a crisis. The government is in a crisis. There's rampant unemployment. Corruption is stripping the state across the board. And all we had in the speech were some nice, soft words. Nothing was new in the speech. There's nothing about how we're going to clean up the SOEs. How are you going to stabilize SAA? How are you going to eradicate the looting in Eskom? There's nothing. There was no targets around job creation. We have 38%, not 27%, but 38% unemployment, if you include people who've given up looking for work, who can work. And until you can deal with unemployment, you won't move forward as a nation. So for us, really, it's a tragedy. It's a shame we've missed the opportunity. There's nothing which gives hope to the nation, this statement.
Let me stick with you. One of the phrases used in the budget review here is the fact that the presidential task team now will be considering a range of steps to bring in public finances back onto a sustainable path. This fear that there might be a shift in the control of finances from Treasury to the presidency, is that telling in this document?
Look, there's no centre in government anymore. You can see there's no collective in cabinet. You have ministers running all over the show saying contradictory things. Some say, let the rand fall, we'll pick it up. Minister of Finance, I think, to give credit to him, has tried to say the right things. But I think we can't expect one Minister of Finance to be a magician when his colleagues are at the centre of the problem. We have a crisis in the social grants. You've got a crisis in water, a crisis in electricity. So until there's a collective coming together, they're just basically shifting chairs on the Titanic and not dealing with the political issues. And I think you're right to mention the President because he's at the heart of the issues. And this is why, as COSATU, we've been saying since last year, he must step down. He can no longer provide leadership. We really need fresh leadership. We need to clean up And we need to be brutal about it. We can't afford to dither any longer.
Yeah. Sizwe, let me bring you in here on that very similar point. The presidential task team that's been put forward here to consider a range of public finances to get us back on a sustainable path, as it says. Do you see anything cynical about this?
Well, that's a problem when you're dealing with the question of credibility. Because, as I mentioned earlier on, that the competency that should reside with National Treasury now has been outsourced somewhere else. So the key here is that we need more. Business should be treated as a national asset so that at least we can provide solution. Government can never be able to absorb all the labor that is actually provided. And sadly, the storyline is still the same in terms of the words. What we need is action now, whereby competency should reside with that, and business needs to provide. Business has always been ready to say that we'll be able to provide, not just in words, but in terms of government, in terms of resources, in terms of providing the infrastructure that's needed. However, the government also needs to come to the party by saying, these are the pains and the sacrifices we are actually making. BLSA, on the 23rd of August 2017, they signed a contract with South Africans, whereby they say, we are committed, we believe in South Africa. We want to root out the corruption and state capture. We want to make sure that we provide inclusive growth. And all those steps are undermined if the government is not coming to the party.
Okay. I want to ask both of you if this is a poverty alleviating budget. Mark, let's start with you.
There's nothing about poverty in the budget. And in fact, government right now is the biggest threat to its very positive progressive policy, poverty alleviation programs like social grants and so on. It seems to be kind of a waiting game budget statement, maybe waiting for the ANC conference in December and to see what happens with leadership. But there's no new initiatives there. So if we're talking about unemployment, there's nothing there. In fact, we are losing workers' jobs across all economic sectors. But government has delayed increasing access to the unemployment insurance fund. There's a new unemployment insurance law. It hasn't been implemented because of typing mistakes by the department. So I'm not sure what poverty mechanisms are there. Yep. NHI, won't happen now because government is in a crisis. Social security is delayed because government is in a crisis. So until they get the house in order, it's not difficult stuff. We can't move forward as a nation.
Okay, I'm going to have to wrap you up because of time. Thanks very much, both gentlemen, for joining us. Sizwe Mbele from BLSA, Matthew Parks from COSATU. Thanks indeed for giving us your time.